Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Royal Ramble podcast. I am your host, Zach Stevens, and we are here to review the episode of Raw from July 10th, 2017, out of Houston, Texas, in the Toyota Center. As always, guys, you can follow us on Twitter at Ramble_cast. Again, that is Ramble_cast. And of course, you can always subscribe to our YouTube page. That is the go-to destination to listen to the Royal Ramble podcast. That is where you're going to find the highest quality episodes that we have to offer, plus our entire backlog of episodes that we have done. So definitely check us out over there, and please subscribe over there as well. We are also on Podbean. Check us out over there at podbean.com/Royal Ramble Radio. And of course, you can always download that Podbean app and listen to us on the go wherever you are. So guys, as we head into tonight's episode of Raw, this is obviously the Fallout episode from Great Balls of Fire, which if you haven't yet, definitely go check out our review and recap of Great Balls of Fire that was posted yesterday. Go into deep detail about that pay-per-view and my thoughts on the Joe and Lesnar match. Walked away feeling from that match a little disappointed, guys, not gonna lie. It just did not live up to the hype for me personally, and I felt like the ending was a little flat. I do hope that these guys can get back together and hopefully do another rematch, and we will have to find out if that's where they are headed based off to tonight's Raw. So, going into tonight, we obviously have some questions, like always. The first question, like I said, man, this is the fallout from Great Balls of Fire. What exactly is going to go down tonight? You know, they obviously have some loose ends to tie up from the pay-per-view, mainly Braun and Braun and Roman, and of course, Joe and Lesnar. And they also have some potential rematches that could occur tonight, namely Sasha and Alexa. Will we get that title shot again? Obviously, Alexa choosing to stay outside of the ring for a count-out victory to retain her title. Will Kurt Angle come out and award her a rematch? We will have to wait and see. The second question I have tonight is, will we know the direction for the Universal title heading into SummerSlam? There's been lots of rumors about what exactly WWE is going to do at SummerSlam. Are they still holding out for Roman and Brock Lesnar for WrestleMania? Or are we going to get that at SummerSlam? Have plans changed, and are they going to do that match sooner than later? Or will it be that rumored four-way that has been rumored to be happening between Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and Samoa Joe? Is that what we will get at SummerSlam? Or will they just leave it up in the air for now and figure it out later? We will have to see. And then finally, are they going to put Finn Balor in anything meaningful now that these feuds have finally ended? Obviously, he still kind of has a feud going on with Elias Sampson. Are they going to let that finish out tonight and get him back into the mix of some actual titles? Or is he going to be stuck in that mid-card to below mid-card for a while until they really have something for him? We are going to have to find out, and hopefully we get some of those answers tonight on this edition of Monday Night Raw. So, guys, the show starts, and we start with a highlight package of the ambulance match from Great Balls of Fire. This highlight package lasts about 3 minutes. No other match is shown from Great Balls of Fire in this little segment here. All the ambulance stuff. Then JoJo comes out and introduces Big Cass by saying he's 7 feet tall and you can't teach that. Please welcome Big Cass. Cass comes out to his new generic music. Look, I still like it. I know a lot of people are saying that it's just too generic. It sounds like something you would hear maybe, on WWE 2K17, like, stock bad guy music, essentially. But look, man, I don't really care what anyone says. I think it's the perfect shitty song for a shitty heel. I think that is something that is going to help him get over, and it really gets over the message that WWE is trying to portray when it comes to Cass, and that he's coming out to kick some ass, and he's a big bad motherfucker, and I think that song describes that well. Cass starts kicking off the show here, and I think that's also a really big deal that he is starting off Monday Night Raw. It kind of shows that they are going to put the rocket on this guy. Now it's up to him to decide if he's going to sink or swim. Cass stands in the middle of the ring. Boos are just raining down on him from this Houston crowd. He has a ton of boos here before he even decides to speak. He stands in the ring for a very long time before saying anything at all, and then he just simply says, "How you doing?" sarcastically. He then says he's doing spectacular today after what he did to Enzo last night. Cass then kicks it to some still shots of what happened at Great Balls of Fire between him and Enzo because, of course, in typical WWE fashion, they don't show video highlights from pay-per-views. They only show still shots because they don't want anyone that didn't pay for it to get any of the action. So, typical WWE backwards logic there. He says that the best part about last night, though, happened after the match backstage. And they show basically Enzo having to get carried away by 2 refs because he can't even walk anymore. The crowd boos at this video. They are super upset about this. We then start getting loud casshole chants. However, these might have been asshole chants, though. Not really sure. He then goes on to say that he wants this to be a message to everyone in the locker room from the bottom to the top of the totem pole. He goes on to tell people to not hop on his bandwagon now after they cheered for Enzo for so long and didn't cheer for him. He then says to all the doubters that he will be the Universal Champion. We get huge boos here at that notion. He then goes on to say when he wins it, he will hold it high and shove it down all of our throats. He says he will main event WrestleMania, he will be on The Tonight Show, he will be on banners, and he will represent the WWE every day of his life. He then goes on to say that no one can meet him eye to eye because he is at the top of the mountain. Then, obviously, if you're making a bunch of I'm tall, I'm big references, you know who's coming out here, and that, of course, is The Big Show. My thoughts on the promo from Cass, though, really great promo, actually. Easily one of the best that he has ever delivered. Really showing some nice range here, showing some emotion, and kind of somewhat proving that he can handle himself on the mic without Enzo Amore. I still do have some issues with how he delivered this promo. He was kind of, his facial expressions weren't really on point here. He was smiling a lot for some reason. And in my opinion, I think he just needs to come out here and look pissed off and disgusted all the time. I get that he was smiling somewhat in an ironic way, kind of smiling at the crowd like, yeah, this is what you get sort of thing. But he should look like a mean motherfucker 24/7. And I think that is the character that Big Cass needs to be. And I think that's something that he'll be able to work out eventually. This is obviously his first real promo as a straight up heel now. So he's got some time to work with this. And I think this was a good start and a good promo from Cass. Big Show does get into the ring. We have Big Show chants. The crowd really behind Big Show here tonight. Cass then gets in his face. We have a little bit of a stare down. Then Big Show headbutts Cass. They start to brawl. Eventually, Big Show gets him in the corner and just starts kneeing and punching Cass in the face. The crowd is loving this, chanting for Big Show here. Cass eventually retreats and exits the ring. Obviously, like I said, really great promo out of Cass. He definitely proved some of his doubters wrong tonight by just delivering that promo and that sort of style of promo. A lot of people are saying that he is going to not be able to succeed without Enzo as his mouthpiece, but I think this was a good start for him, and I think it showed that he does have the ability to cut a promo on his own without Enzo. Him kicking off the show as well is a huge indication that they have big plans for Big Cass. However, I will say this though, if this Big Show match ends up being more than just a one-off match, then they are doing something wrong. We don't need to have Cass versus Big Show at SummerSlam. That isn't going to hype anyone up. Let these guys have a couple matches on Raw and let's end it there. Even though this Houston crowd was really cheering a lot for Big Show and they were behind him fully, I don't think that type of crowd is going to be the one that's at SummerSlam. SummerSlam is going to bring in a hostile, international crowd, a very smart-like crowd. So I don't necessarily see them cheering for Big Show a whole lot. So hopefully they can find a better pairing for Big Cass as we head into SummerSlam. Obviously we have, about a month or so before that takes place. So they do have some time here. I just hope that Big Cass's first feud as a heel is Big Show. I hope that's not the case. The first match of the night we get, though, is going to be Elias Samson versus Finn Balor. We obviously did not get this on the Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view, so it's obvious that WWE has to find a way to end this feud if they weren't going to end it on that pay-per-view. Hopefully, like I said at the top of the show, hopefully this ends up being the blow-off match, and Finn can finally start getting back to being a main eventer like he should be. Elias comes out, he's in the middle of the ring, has a spotlight on him, and he does his usual thing. He tells the crowd to hold off their applause until he is finished, and of course the crowd starts applauding immediately at this. He says he wrote a song for Balor. He starts singing, getting massive boos. Very underwhelming song. He's definitely done better in the past. This was very generic. As soon as he starts singing, though, Balor's music eventually interrupts Elias, and Balor comes out to the ring. The match starts. Balor starts him in a side headlock. Samson meets him with an elbow into a roll-up, but Balor is able to escape and then hit him with a drop kick. Finn then meets Elias with a kick from the apron, heads to the top rope, but Elias rolls and exits out of the ring. We come back from commercial, and Elias is now in control as always. You know, anytime someone is in control and we come back from break, the other person is now in control. Elias hits Balor with a nice suplex for a near fall. Then Samson gets Balor in a full Nelson. Balor really struggling to get away from the strength of Samson, which is something that he is definitely portraying in his matches, just his straight up brutal strength. Balor gets back in control, though, with a few knife-edge chops in the corner. He knocks Samson to the outside, then runs and kicks Samson through the middle rope. Balor then sets up for that patented running kick that he does on the apron, that punt that he does, but Elias catches him mid-kick and plants Balor face first into the apron. Balor has a stomp onto Elias, then Samson has a roll-up on Balor for a very close near fall. Samson goes for another pin right after that roll-up, but Balor kicks out of this one as well. Balor then hits the overhead kick and then regains control finally. Balor hits a sling blade, goes into a drop kick, then he gets up to the top post, sets up for the coup de grace, hits it, 1, 2, 3, Balor wins. My thoughts here, nothing really noteworthy to come out of this. This was just a jam. This was just another match, a jam. Balor looked good. Elias also looked good here. And I'm thinking that this is probably the end of this feud. And they did need a way to finish this storyline, I would put that in quotes, storyline, and kind of move Finn along into his next real opponent. Obviously, they weren't just going to drop this feud. They wanted to end it some way. There were rumors about this match taking place on the Great Balls of Fire pre-show, but obviously that did not happen. So they needed a way to get this match over with, get this feud done with, and move Finn along. I honestly cannot wait to see what's in store for Balor next. I think him facing Brock would be amazing, but I don't really see them pulling the trigger on that match quite yet. But honestly, getting him involved in any other title race, especially the IC race, would be absolutely awesome. It would spice that thing up, and it would make the Intercontinental title interesting again. Obviously, we've been subjected to nothing but Miz versus Ambrose for that title, and it has lost all interest from this crowd and everyone that follows WWE. So if they were able to inject some life into that belt situation with a Finn Balor, I think that would do a lot of good in the long run, and it would make things far more interesting than seeing just another Miz-Ambrose match. As Balor leaves the ring, though, I thought this was kind of interesting. He's leaving the ring after his match. Then the Hardy Boys music hits, and they meet Balor at the top of the ramp. They shake his hand, their music hits, and then they head to the ring. At first, I was thinking, oh shit, are they about to turn on Balor or something? But no, they were just they were setting up for action next, apparently, and they were just coming out to set up for their segment. So I thought that was a little interesting how they did that and how they kind of overlaid the segments together. Next up in ring, we do have the Hardy Boys. They are actually going to get some promo time, which is something that we really haven't gotten lately out of these guys. So my ears definitely perked up, and I was definitely interested in hearing what they had to say, and they did kind of deliver here. So if they are about to challenge for the tag team titles, though, if they come out here and do this promo saying, we want another shot at Cesaro and Sheamus, I'm instantly going to tune out, guys. I'm sick of seeing that combination. Even though I did enjoy that 30-minute Iron Man match, after expecting it to be pretty shitty, I did like it in the end. But if they come out here and challenge for it again, I'm just going to tune out. Jeff, though, he goes on to talk about them participating in the first ever tag team Iron Man match last night. He says he knows what the other tag teams are thinking in the back. The Hardy Boys are done. The nostalgia pop has passed. And I'm thinking, yeah, actually, I'm thinking that too, Jeff. Then he says, maybe we should just fade away and classify ourselves as obsolete. We get loud delete chants here. Obviously, the classify ourselves as obsolete is a direct relation to their broken characters. So everyone chanting delete here. Matt then says they came here to make a proclamation. The Hardy Boys are not going anywhere, and we have only begun to make magic within the WWE universe. Then, as soon as they say magic, Gallows and Anderson music hits. They come out and they say it wasn't other tag teams saying all that stuff, it was just them. They said the only thing they proved last night was that they aren't the Hardy Boys of old, they are just the old Hardy Boys. They call them nerds, they tell them that they're magic killers, and then that ring belongs to them. Matt says they're not 100%, they're a little stitched up, a little bruised, and somewhat broken. Matt then says, bring a ref out here, and we can determine who this ring actually belongs to. So then Gallows and Anderson head to the ring. My thoughts here on this promo, absolutely love those broken references, man. This was the hardest they have ever leaned into teasing those broken characters on WWE television. We kind of went from not getting any broken references for a while to them heavily leaning into it tonight. So very interesting that they did that, and especially that they came out on TV and did that. You know, a lot of the times the broken references will take place on those backstage interviews that they do only on either the network or on their on the WWE.com page or their YouTube page, those sorts of things. But this was on national live TV, and they came out here and they directly referenced their broken characters. So I'm not sure if they're making progress and getting those characters and working out that litigation with TNA and Global Force Wrestling or whatever the fuck their name is these days. If not, though, it's pretty ballsy for them to come out here and do that. You know, I do have some conflicting feelings about this, though. Look, Matt Hardy on Twitter has been saying, look, we won the Great War, and everyone's thinking that is referencing getting their broken characters, and he's telling everyone, thank you for your patience and all of that. So, did they actually get the characters now? Is this what we're finally leading into? Is that what this promo is trying to indicate? I don't know, but the way I'm feeling about it is that if they do not have these broken characters, and they feel like they aren't going to get them, I kind of wish that they would just not even come out here and tease us like this. I don't want to be led on and feeling like, okay, they're finally going to be broken, and then just constantly getting disappointed by that. So I'm not sure if them making these subtle references, is actually doing more harm than good. I'm not sure about that. We will have to see, but I really wish they wouldn't come out here and just dangle it in front of us if they know for a fact that we aren't getting those broken characters. So WWE obviously has a lot to figure out regarding that. I hope they figure it out, and I hope they figure it out fast. So obviously we are going to get that match between Gallows and Anderson and the Hardy Boys. Matt starts off this match, even though his eye is still all stitched up from that match last night where he was just gushing blood all over the place. Matt and Jeff start up the match with a ton of great tag team offense. It culminating in the poetry in motion, basically. We come back from break. Gallows is now in control of Jeff. Anderson is tagged in. He hits the boot of doom, goes for a pin, but Matt jumps in and breaks it up. Jeff then gets the tag to Matt. Matt beats down on Anderson, smashing his head into each of the 3 turnbuckles. Matt then hits the side effect onto Anderson. He goes for a twist of fate, but Anderson is able to stop him. Gallows then kicks Matt in the back of the head. The ref does not see this. Anderson and Gallows then both get in the ring. They set up for the Magic Killer. They hit it. 1, 2, 3. Anderson and Gallows win. So, damn, that's my initial thought is, damn, I can't believe Gallows and Anderson just got a win. That was completely unexpected. I thought for sure that the Hardy Boys were about to win this match easily, get on the mic, and then challenge Sheamus and Cesaro yet again. But maybe WWE is actually listening, and we can finally go for a new direction with these tag teams for a little bit. And I think they might be listening, guys, because as soon as Gallows and Anderson are exiting the ring, guess what happens? The Revival's music hits. The Revival then goes straight into the ring. They beat down on the Hardys, who have obviously just went through a 30-minute Iron Man match, and now they just went into a match where they were obviously already beat down, not 100%. So basically, the Revival are coming out and beating down corpses at this point. Huge heel move. They get huge heel heat from this. They end their brawl by hitting their tag finisher, the Shattered Machine, which I love. So in the end, man, it looks like WWE is listening. They know that we are sick of seeing the Hardys versus Sheamus and Cesaro, and it looks like now we will be getting the Revival and the Hardys for a little bit, and I am so down for that match. Give it to me right now. The Revival need to be on TV. Lately, they have not been anywhere since coming back. They've actually been doing the main event shows, the one that I think only airs in the UK or somewhere else. But I am so glad that they are getting in the mix on TV tonight. This is a direction that I'm absolutely, totally interested in. And I don't care that it isn't for a title. Just give me some new tag team pairings. That is the one thing that we have been severely lacking lately. Tag team wrestling on both shows has been abysmal lately. So I am glad that the Revival is getting involved. And look, make no mistake about it, guys. The Revival are one of the best tag teams in the world, and the Hardys are obviously as well. So putting those two teams together, I think that is going to yield an amazing match, and I cannot wait to see that match. So far, though, my thoughts initially on this Raw is that it's moving quickly. We aren't having any long-ass, meaningless matches that burn time. So overall, right now, I'm feeling good about this episode of Raw. I'm really liking it so far. I'm liking the pace that it's taking, and I'm liking the matches that they are teasing and the matches that we've gotten so far. So next up in the ring, we have Miz TV. It's Miz, the Miztourage, and Maurice. They're all in the ring for their Miz TV segment. They have a table on it with 3 trophies. And they say they're here to do the best awards show ever, the Mizzies. Now, I don't follow pop culture all that much, but I know the WWE loves to attach themselves to whatever is popular. So my guess is that we are probably entering the Oscars. I bet the Oscars is probably this weekend, which is why they had to do something of their own and call it the Mizzies. He says, forget about the Emmys, forget about the Slammies, forget about the Oscars. He goes on to say, these are the Mizzies. He goes on then to give the award for Best Supporting Actor, and he says it's a tie. And it goes to both Bo and Curtis. On the Titantron here, they show a shot of it, and it hilariously says, applause, applause, telling the crowd to applaud like a real award show would. Absolutely love that touch. Bo then gets on the mic to do his acceptance speech. The crowd then starts chanting, "You deserve it," and Bo puts the mic down and actually takes a few seconds to soak in this chant like a real actor would. Absolutely great stuff from Bo here, and I love that the crowd was getting into this segment as well. He goes on to say that he wants to thank someone very special to him, The Miz. He says that he changed his life and then says, let's change the world. An obvious sort of emotional quote that you would hear out of someone accepting an Emmy or an Oscar. Curtis then gets on the mic and he says, I look and feel like $1 million. And because of you, Miz, I'm going to make $1 million. Miz then says that they were unutilized before, but now look at them, award-winning superstars. Miz then gives the next Mizzy to Maurice. She starts fake crying like an actress would. Miz tells her that he loves her, and they thank each other for helping them get their awards. Then the final Mizzy, obviously we all see where this is going. It's for the greatest man in the WWE, and it goes to Dean Ambrose. But then the Miz says, no, just kidding, it goes to the Miz. He says that he would make the IC title the most prestigious, and he did. He said that he'd beat Ambrose at Great Balls of Fire, and he did. He then goes on to say that Ambrose caved under the pressure, but Dean is the toughest man in WWE, but says because he beat the toughest man in the WWE, what does that make me? Then Ambrose music hits. Oh, God, guys. Wow, seriously? Not this shit again. Are we seriously setting up for another Miz and Dean IC title match? I cannot believe it. I cannot believe that they are about to go this direction again. We did not get a definitive match for SummerSlam here. It's not like they announced Miz versus Dean at SummerSlam again, but the fact that these guys are interacting again on Raw just tells me that we're probably headed for another fucking rematch. And I already said, guys, I told you this on my Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view review, I refuse to review another one of these people's matches. So if we do get this on SummerSlam, I will not watch it. I will not review it. Fuck this match. Look, WWE has one of the best rosters in history right now. You look at their roster, it is stacked with guys that we want to see. Finn Balor, Sami Zayn, AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. Think about all the people that are on this roster. And what do we constantly fucking get? Miz versus Dean all the time. This IC title is basically in the toilet at this point. Nobody wants to see this match anymore. They had the worst match on that card from last night. And no one wants to see this again, and I cannot honestly believe that this is where they are headed. Anyway, Dean comes in, he attacks The Miz, he takes out all the set, basically, the trophies go flying. The Miztourage then gets involved, they start beating down Ambrose, but then Seth Rollins runs from backstage, gets in the ring, and starts helping Ambrose. So obviously teasing a semi-Shield reunion here. They send The Miz and his goons off, and Dean and Seth stand tall in the ring to end the segment. Again, guys, I do not want to see another Miz versus Dean Ambrose match. I don't even want to see these guys in the same fucking area code, let alone the same fucking ring. So I am absolutely tuned out of them, man. Bottom line, sure, you can try and get me invested with a semi-Shield reunion, having Seth and Dean in there, but until Roman Reigns gets involved and you do it for real, I'm not going to care about you teasing these Shield reunions that you constantly tease all the time that never end up actually happening. And like I said, man, Miz better not be facing Dean again for the IC title, because I refuse to review that match if they do it. Please do not tell me that is where we are headed for SummerSlam. Please, WWE, please do not do this. The next segment we get after we come back from break is Dean and Seth backstage. Dean goes on to ask Seth what that was all about. Seth says he didn't want The Miz to talk about him like that, so he came out there and showed him what was up. Dean says he doesn't trust Seth. Dean then says this isn't going to happen. There will not be a Shield reunion, and he walks away. My thoughts from this little promo was that Dean actually came off more heelish than he ever has in this promo. And honestly, I would much prefer to see Dean Ambrose as a heel than this stupid, crazy, wacky Dean Ambrose that we normally get that nobody likes. I'm still interested that they mentioned the word Shield reunion on TV, because it does make me think that they are setting up for something to that effect down the line. But as we have seen in the past, guys, they have constantly teased these reunions before and nothing ever happens. So I am guessing that this is probably also going to lead to nothing. We set up for the third match of the night, and it's going to be a tag match between 4 women, Bayley and Sasha versus Nia and Alexa. This is a rematch of Raw's tag team tag match that they had last week. Sasha and Alexa start off the match, but it isn't long before Nia and Bayley get tagged in. Sasha takes Alexa off the apron, then they end up chasing each other around the ring, and then they both dive back into the ring. This match is going off the rails immediately. Bayley hits an elbow off the top rope to Nia, sending her to the outside along with Bliss. We go to commercial, we come back from break, and now Sasha is in control of Alexa. Nia and Bayley then tag in, and Bayley tries to take out the legs of Nia. The crowd is pretty dead here, though. There's no real reaction from this Houston crowd for this match right now, unfortunately. Nia tackles Bayley into the post after she comes off the top rope. Nia then starts tossing Bayley around by her head. Bliss gets the tag in and starts slapping Bayley in the face. She goes for a pin, but Bayley kicks out in 2. Bayley tries to tag in Sasha, but Nia rams her back into the corner. Alexa then tries to take Sasha off the apron, but misses, and then eventually Bliss does end up knocking her off the apron, however. Bliss then heads to the top rope, hits the Twisted Bliss onto Bayley, who is just out cold still. 1, 2, but Sasha is able to get back up and breaks up the pin. Nia then gets in, tosses Sasha to the outside. She goes for a tackle, but ends up running into the barricade herself. Bayley, meanwhile, gets a roll-up onto Bliss. 1, 2, 3. Bayley and Sasha win. My thoughts here, pretty boring match. Decent finish with the whole Sasha on the apron thing. I kind of like the ending there. But in the end, this was a pretty pointless match here, guys. Not going to lie. Sasha does win. Cole goes on to say that he goes on to stupidly say that Sasha gets the last laugh here, but quite honestly, guys, she's not really getting her revenge by winning a tag match for absolutely nothing. For her to get her revenge, for her to have the last laugh, as Cole would say, she would need an actual rematch for the title and then win. No one's walking away with the last laugh here other than Alexa, because she is still the champion. I do still want to see Sasha versus Bliss again. I really like their match at Great Balls of Fire, and I hope that they can get a proper build on the episodes of Raw leading into SummerSlam, and then we can actually have a really, really good heated match at SummerSlam between those two ladies. And who knows, man, maybe it's finally time to put that belt onto Sasha, and then we eventually head into that Sasha-Bayley match that we all know that that's where we're going. So we will see what happens, but there was no indication of what is happening with the women's title tonight on this episode of Raw, unfortunately. Next up, we have a Goldust promo. It's another one of the Shattered Dream production, video promos that he does. He says, "Are you going to bark all day, little doggy, or are you going to bite?" Quoting Reservoir Dogs, which I do not remember that quote from that movie, even though it's one of my favorites of all time. He says the Shattered Truth was a box office smash, the biggest hit of the summer. He goes on to say that it's only natural to give his audience what they want, an encore performance, a sequel. My thoughts immediately, guys, this is the never-ending feud. These two guys are going to have endless promos forever, aren't they? Does anyone actually even care about this feud at this point? Who is the one that is sitting back there in the backstage area or creative saying, oh man, I cannot wait to see R-Truth versus Goldust tonight? Is this fucking 2007? What is this? Why is the WWE investing so much time and energy into this shitty ass fucking feud? I honestly do not get it. It's R-Truth and Goldust, guys. Nobody is excited for that match. That sounds like something that we would see on a pre-show match 10 years ago. No one wants to see that, man. And if there is, I would love to meet that person who is the biggest R-Truth and Goldust fan, because I just do not understand why this is getting so much time on TV when there are other guys on this roster who don't even get involved and are just waiting on the sidelines to have a meaningful match. Why is there being so much money, so much time, so much effort being invested into this shitty-ass feud when you have guys like Finn Balor and other guys just waiting on the sidelines, waiting for something important? Just does not make sense to me, man. I haven't liked this from the beginning. This never worked for me, period. I was wishing that they just broke up and that was it. Maybe have one match and end it, but this has been going on for nearly 2 months now. We don't need to see this anymore, guys. Let's fucking end it. Anyway, they show another long highlight package of Braun and Roman from Great Balls of Fire and the ensuing backstage stuff that took place from last night. We get loud Roman sucks chants during this video segment. Cole then goes on to tell us that we will get an update from Kurt on the condition of Braun later tonight, which we actually did not get that. I don't remember him talking about that from this episode, so who knows, man. Anyway, we are getting this blow-off match from the Goldust R-Truth shit. R-Truth comes out to the ring. He does his whole what's up rap entrance, which doesn't make any sense considering you're about to come out here and face Goldust, your arch nemesis that's been attacking you and talking shit about you for weeks now, and you're coming out here all smiles doing your rap gimmick. Just does not make sense. It does not fit the mood for what this match is supposed to be. And immediately, as soon as R-Truth and Goldust come out, my initial thought is, okay, this is where Raw starts going downhill, isn't it? This is where it's all going to start sucking shit. Well, anyway, will this be the end of Goldust and R-Truth? We have to find out. My guess is that it's probably not over. We start off with a cheap shot onto R-Truth as the ref was backing away from the corner. R-Truth starts beating down Goldust in the corner, but Goldust is able to slip out and takes out the legs of R-Truth. He starts beating him down in the middle of the ring. He starts doing some weird shit here, like petting R-Truth's head as he holds him in a lock. There are some chops in the corner from Goldust. There's a knee onto R-Truth for a pin. Really just incredibly slow match. The crowd is completely dead silent here. Houston is asleep at this point. No one gives a fuck about this match. Goldust then hits a spine buster on Truth. He goes for a pin, but R-Truth is able to grab the bottom rope and break the ensuing pin. R-Truth then tries to get a powerbomb onto, R-Truth then does get a powerbomb onto Goldust. Both men are lying on the ground, and the crowd is completely dead quiet here. You could literally hear a pin drop in this crowd during this match. R-Truth finally gets some life into the crowd after hitting a spinning elbow, but it doesn't last long. Goldust then chop blocks the knee of R-Truth. Truth then hits some kicks onto Goldust for a near fall. At this point, I'm feeling like, oh my god, this match is never going to fucking end. This is completely sucking the momentum out of this Raw. It's completely ruining this episode that otherwise was starting off pretty well. Goldust then hits a side-spinning suplex and then pins R-Truth. 1, 2, 3. Goldust wins. My immediate thoughts, what a giant fucking waste of time. This Raw wasn't that bad at all until now. The women's match was kind of a stinker there, but it wasn't horrible. And now we just had about 30 minutes of Goldust and R-Truth garbage, which completely sucked the air out of the room. This was completely fucking pointless. No one gave a shit about this match. The crowd was completely dead silent. Seriously, go back and watch this match and just listen to how quiet this crowd was. It was shocking at one point how quiet they were. So, in the end, man, I hope this is the end of the storyline. We do not need to be subjected to any more of this R-Truth Goldust garbage. It's just completely foul at this point. I hope the WWE can let it go because no one gives a fuck about either of these guys right now. Next up, we finally get some life back into this crowd here because Kurt Angle comes to the ring and the crowd wakes up for it. They're doing very loud "You Suck" chants to his music. His 24 episode apparently airs tonight. They've shown some previews for that and it looks very interesting. Can't wait to check that out. Kurt goes on in the ring and he says that things last night got out of hand in that ambulance match. He says Braun refused medical treatment and he doesn't know when or if he will return. So I guess that was our big update on Braun. He doesn't know when or if he's going to return at all. Kurt, however, then goes on to say that the show must go on. And he introduces the Universal Champion, Brock Lesnar, which, damn, I was actually a little surprised at this. I wasn't expecting Brock to be on TV tonight. And anytime we can get the Universal title on TV, I will be a happy guy. So this was a nice surprise. Kurt goes on to mention their match 14 years ago between Brock and Kurt at WrestleMania. He then goes on to say that he thought Joe might actually take him out, but he was wrong. And he goes on to congratulate Brock for remaining the Universal Champion. Paul asks him if there's anything else that Kurt has to say, otherwise they will leave. Kurt goes on to say that he thought they'd be curious to see who he has in mind to challenge Brock for that Universal title now. Paul says they don't brainstorm creative ideas in public, calling out Kurt's personal problems and his new corporate job as GM. They basically then just decide to start leaving the ring, and then of course Roman's music hits. Which, didn't we all see this coming? I mean, Roman came out a few weeks ago and claimed that he was the number one contender. Kurt had nothing to do with that, so I'm not really sure why Kurt was even saying that, aren't you interested in knowing who I think should be the number one contender, when Roman Reigns is obviously calling his own shots these days, so it didn't really make sense from that standpoint. Anyway, Roman comes out, he's wearing his horrible looking Superman punch shirt. This thing is fucking hideous. Who on earth is buying that garbage? It's probably the same people that are loving R-Truth and Goldust. Those are the same idiots that are buying this fucking horrible looking shirt. Anyway, Roman and Brock have a brief stare down here when they get into the ring. Kurt goes on to say that he has a lot of nerve coming out here after what he pulled last night. Roman goes on to tell Kurt that, he thanks him, basically saying that, Roman says that Kurt can thank him because he didn't know how to handle Braun Strowman. He then looks at Brock and says, and you're never around to. I thought that was a really nice line from Roman there, really, poking fun at the fact that Brock is never on Raw, which is true. Brock then immediately gets in Roman's face when he says this, really building up a lot of tension here, loving it so far. Roman says Kurt owes him one, and maybe that one is Brock at SummerSlam. Paul then grabs the mic and says something, but Brock takes the mic from him. Brock is about to cut a promo in the ring on Raw, and guys, I fucking love it, man. Anytime Brock is going to cut a promo for me, my ears immediately perk up, man, because it is not often that we get to hear Brock Lesnar cut his own promos, and the fact that he's doing it on Raw, on live TV, he's going to say some important shit. So he goes on to say, you gotta be kidding me. You think you deserve a shot at this, referring to the title? You don't deserve shit, man. He obviously gets bleeped out here, but he does say shit on TV. The crowd obviously goes, oh. Again, I love when Brock cuts promos, man, because one, you never know what this motherfucker is going to say, and he can say whatever he wants because he is Brock Lesnar. So I love that he's cutting promos. Don't get me wrong. I mean, look, Paul Heyman is one of the best in the world, and I don't mind him being the mouthpiece for Brock. But when Brock grabs a mic, man, I much prefer that over listening to Paul Heyman do his same old stuff all the time. So I really hope that, Brock does this more often because it makes things way more interesting. He goes on to say that right now, this is as close as you're ever going to get to this title. You don't deserve it. Then Samoa Joe's music hits. We get extremely loud Joe chants here. Joe comes out and says, aren't we living in a fantasy world? But let me bring us down to reality. Brock then gets on the mic again and says, the reality is I kicked your ass last night. Joe then gets in Brock's face and says, don't worry, because sooner than later, I'm putting your ass to sleep. Guys, this fucking segment is starting off great. It completely got me back into it. It completely woke this crowd up. It woke me up after having to be subjected to that Goldust R-Truth garbage for about 30 minutes. This was an amazing segment, and you could tell that this wasn't a scripted segment. You could tell that this was more improv out of all these guys. This wasn't, them coming out there and hitting their bullet points and saying certain things. they were just cutting promos and talking shit to each other, man. So this was really fucking cool, and props to all three of these guys, man. Really great stuff. He then goes on to say that Brock didn't beat me, you escaped me. He then looks at Roman and says, and you've never beaten me. The crowd obviously goes, oh shit. Paul then gets on the mic and he says that his opinion matters. He says Roman put The Undertaker on a Samoan trophy case, and that in itself is a claim for the title opportunity. He then calls Samoa Joe the excommunicated Samoan who took an F5, and he says he will never see Brock Lesnar in a title match again. Joe and Lesnar then have a very intense face-to-face here. Brock gets literally nose-to-nose with Joe, and they are butting heads essentially right here in the middle of the ring. Brock then says something off to Roman, but then Joe tells him to look at me when I'm talking to you. Kurt then gets involved. He says it will be Joe versus Roman for the opportunity to face Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam next week. So we will get a number one contenders match next week on Raw. This crowd is chanting fight. Kurt is saying, look, if you guys go to blows tonight, I will not let you be in this number one contenders match. So basically saying, do not touch each other or I will remove this opportunity. The entire crowd is chanting, let them fight, trying to get them to go at it, but unfortunately they do not. Guys, holy fuck, this was an intense, and I mean it when I say it, intense segment. It was amazing. I really love that Brock was getting on the mic here. I fucking love it when he cuts promos. Things get so much more, I don't know, they get so much more important when he starts talking on the mic. I don't know what it is, man. I think it's because we don't ever get to hear Brock Lesnar cut promos. Normally he just goes out there, he stands next to Paul, and he just kind of waits for this segment to be over so he can go home. But this right here, you could kind of tell that Brock Lesnar was having fun for once. You know, he grabbed the mic, he was cutting promos, he was saying whatever he wanted to. You could tell that he was legitimately having a good time out there, which is not something that we have seen often out of Lesnar lately. There were some golden lines from all three of these men. Roman, I would probably have to say, was the weakest of all three easily. But regardless, man, this was a great segment. And Joe and Brock really do have some serious heat between each other right now. When they had that face-off, this crowd was eyes glued to what was about to happen because everyone wants to see these two go at it for real. My only thing is, I just hope that their next match, we get a little bit more out of them, and I hope that it actually meets my expectations this time if we do get that rematch. But overall, guys, this was easily the best segment of tonight. Easily the best segment on Raw, period. And I like that we know where we are headed next week. This is what I talked about on the Great Balls of Fire review that we did last night. You know, Raw has been lacking an actual hook lately. Normally, we just go into each episode of Raw, just, you know, going episode to episode. Nothing really to keep us invested or keep us interested or wanting to see what happens. This episode of Raw actually gave us a lot of hooks, and there's another one later on in the show that really got me interested for next week's episode, but we will talk about that in a second. But anyway, the fact that we are promoting a number one contenders match, and it will tell us a lot about the landscape of WWE going forward, that is a great hook, and it has me completely invested in next week's episode of Raw, and I am actually excited for it for once. However, I'm going to say this. There's obviously been those rumors of the four-way. Braun Strowman was not on this episode of Raw tonight. So, I would not be surprised if Braun Strowman shows up in that number one contenders match next week and breaks it up somehow. Obviously, those rumors about a four-way, if Strowman does get involved, I could see us heading to that instead of a singles match between Roman or Brock or Joe and Brock. But overall, guys, this was a fucking amazing segment. Go back and check this out. And this completely shot life back into this crowd and to me. So great stuff out of all those guys. We end the segment, though, with them showing a shot of the announcer desk, of the commentary table, Corey getting a text, and then gets up and leaves like he usually does. When we come back from commercial break, Kurt and Corey are backstage saying, "Did you get the same text that I got?" Kurt then says he might have to go public with this. Then he says that he hopes that the crowd and the WWE universe supports him because it may destroy his career. He then mentions he's going to announce it next week. So, holy shit, talk about hooks, man. This is what I was referencing a second ago. I'm absolutely invested. If Kurt is actually going to come out there and announce what's been going on with his personal problems, I'm totally excited. I want to know what happens, and I cannot wait for next week's show. the fact that we're getting a number one contenders match on that Raw, plus we're going to have the announcement of what's been going on with Kurt Angle, that's going to make for a great show, guys, so I cannot wait. The big question, though, is does this mean that Stephanie McMahon is also coming back next week? You know, we have basically gone this entire year without her. Basically, since WrestleMania, she has been MIA, and she has not been missed. Will she be back, though? Because obviously she's not going to stay away forever, guys. It's not like she's retired from the business. She's still a part of this thing, so she is going to come back at some point. Will it be next week? We will have to wait and see. Next up, we have a Cruiserweight match. It's a tag match, which immediately put me back to sleep. Alexander and Tozawa versus Dar and Neville. Look, guys, I'm not going to go in-depth into this match because, look, until the WWE decides to treat their Cruiserweights as important, I cannot do that. They basically trot Dar and Alicia Fox out here. Instantly, as soon as I see those two, I don't even care. I'm instantly bored. I do not want to see any more of this garbage, and I honestly cannot believe that they are still continuing with this Alicia Fox storyline. They're putting more time and effort into that than anything else on WWE television right now, which is fucking mind-blowing to me. But anyway, basically the ending of this is Tozawa basically gets the role reversal from last night. He ends up racking Neville this time. Tozawa then hits the senton after the rack, pins Neville, 1, 2, 3, Akira Tozawa and Cedric Alexander win. So it looks like we will be getting another Tozawa versus Neville match again soon, and I do not care. Next up, we have a backstage interview with Charlie and Seth. They talk about how he came to Dean's aid tonight. Seth has a black eye, I guess from the cheap shot that Bray gave him at Great Balls of Fire that led to the win. Charlie makes mention of it in a horrible Great Balls of Fire pun. Seth calls Bray a fraud, a coward, and he says that he will expose him again tonight in the main event. Bray then has a promo, says the same old shit. I can't even go into this. Just imagine a Bray Wyatt promo that you've seen before. Copy it, paste it, and boom, there you go. That's exactly what this promo was. Speaking of copy and paste, we head into our main event, and that is Bray versus Seth, a rematch from Great Balls of Fire. Will Bray solidify that victory from last night? Or will Seth come out and erase all of the momentum that he got from that win and beat Bray clean? Let's see what happens. So, right off the bat, there's a nice super kick from Seth early on in this match. Bray then has a huge collision with a diving shoulder tackle onto Seth in the middle of the ring for a 1 count. Bray teases the Sister Abigail, but Seth is able to escape and then hits the suicide dive. Bray then gets thrown into the post. Seth starts going after the hand of Wyatt, pulling apart his fingers and stomping on the hand, really working it over. He then continues to beat down the hand on the steel steps. Seth then goes for that forearm off of the top rope, but Wyatt catches him mid-air and hits the Uranagi. We come back from break, and Bray is now in control. There is a wave going on in the crowd, so obviously the crowd is more interested in their fucking hand motions than this match. There's a very long rear chin lock, rest hold onto Seth. Seth eventually gets up to hit the drop kick. Wyatt hits a splash onto Seth in the corner for a 2 count. We get a Let's Go Rollins chant. But then Bray hits a massive DDT onto Seth for a near fall. We have another very long rest hold, which I honestly can't blame him for this. This match went about 20 minutes to end this show, so it is expected to have some spots that are a little bit slower. Both men then have a nice exchange of kicks back and forth in the center of the ring. Seth then hits a sling blade. Bray rolls outside of the ring. Then Seth hits another suicide dive. Seth then does that clothesline off the top rope, which last night it looked like more of an elbow off the top rope that looked closely, very close to being the phenomenal forearm. But tonight it was a clear clothesline, so not quite gimmick infringement there after all. Rollins then hits a blockbuster for a near fall onto Bray. Then he has a Falcon Arrow for another near fall. Bray then goes for Sister Abigail, but Seth is able to escape, and then he rolls up Wyatt. Bray gets out of it. He then hits a headbutt onto Rollins on the bad eye. Seth is just squirming all over the place in complete pain. Bray then takes advantage of this, hits Sister Abigail, goes for a pin. 1, 2, 3. Bray Wyatt gets another win over Seth Rollins, which, in my opinion, is the right move. look, Bray Wyatt has been consistently losing lately. He's now got 2 wins in a row over Seth Rollins. That is definitely the direction that it needs to go, and he needs to continue winning and continue to build up momentum so that we can take him seriously as an opponent and as a heel once again. As this match is over, though, the lights go out. Bray evaporates into thin air, apparently, because when the lights come back on, he is gone. And now the Miztourage comes out from the crowd out of nowhere. They are surrounding Seth. They're swarming him. They start the 3-on-1 beatdown like we started Miz TV with, basically. But then, guess who comes out to save him? It's Dean Ambrose. So, a complete role reversal there. Dean telling Seth, hey, stay out of my business. And then Dean ends up actually coming to save him. So, I actually did like that from a storytelling standpoint. You know, they teased that Dean and Seth were kind of at odds. And then Dean ended up coming out and helping him in the end. So, good storytelling there. And a quick little wrap-up of the story in this episode of Raw, which I thought was good. Dean takes out the Miztourage with a chair, completely just beating the fuck out of the Miz, hitting him multiple times with his chair in the back. Then we go backstage for a final tease. You know, right here I kind of thought maybe Dean would turn the chair onto Seth and go heel, but that unfortunately did not happen. The screen just fades. We go to backstage for the final tease, and this is probably one of the most noteworthy segments to come out of this episode of Raw. It is something that everybody is talking about. Kurt is on the phone with someone. We don't know who it is, obviously. He tells them, whoever it is on the other side of that phone, to come here next week, and they will both announce it together. He says that they have nothing to be ashamed of, and he's proud of them, whoever it is. He says they'll tell the whole world together, and whatever happens, happens. He then says 3 words here that basically lit the wrestling world on fire here, and he says, I love you. So, that is how Raw ends, man. We go off the air with Kurt on the phone telling somebody that he loves them. So first, let's tackle that Kurt segment first before we talk about the match. Look, guys, if that was Stephanie on the other end of that phone and he's telling her that I love you, we are looking at some serious bombs dropping next week on Raw. That would mean that we are probably getting Triple H versus Kurt Angle at SummerSlam, which that's the only logical solution there if it is Stephanie. However, I don't honestly think that they would do that with Stephanie at this point. This isn't 1995 anymore. In the past, she said before that she doesn't like doing sketchy love angles now that they have kids and their kids watch the product. They don't want them thinking that mommy is cheating on daddy or something like that. So I'm not sure if it's actually Stephanie, but if that is where this is going, man, I am absolutely hooked, and I cannot wait to see what is on next week's episode of Raw. A really good job building up to this, and I hope that it does pay off in the end. A lot of rumors saying that it could be Dixie Carter, who just recently had some type of interview with WWE. So she is somewhat connected to the company again. So if it's Dixie Carter, I don't know if that necessarily makes sense. Why would that ruin Kurt's career? That does not make sense. It's more logical that it's Stephanie, but then again, I don't think that they would do that love angle with Stephanie at this point in her career either. So, I don't know, man. Lots of question marks surrounding that. But look, that is a serious hook for next week's Raw. And I am absolutely excited to see where they go and what they do with that. So, my overall thoughts on tonight's episode of Raw, man. The Bray-Seth match, let's talk about that just for a second. That was basically just a copy and paste job from the pay-per-view. There were a lot of the same spots that we saw in the pay-per-view that happened in this match. I do think it's interesting that Bray got another win here, and I do think that is important. He was on that massive losing streak, so getting some wins here does get some momentum back with him, and hopefully he can keep winning and continuing to build up his character again from the depths that it once was. I'm not sure if this feud is going to be continuing between him and Seth. I really hope that it isn't. I hope that we can get something new for Seth and Bray, but the fact still remains, Bray Wyatt won here, so Seth probably wants his revenge, so we will see what happens. I did think it was interesting that they had The Miz come out and attack Seth tonight, though, but I'm not sure if that necessarily means that Seth is going to be challenging for the IC title, or if they were just coming out to get revenge from earlier in the show when Seth came out and beat them all up. So that still remains to be seen, and I think that if Seth were to be injected into the IC title over Dean, that is much more interesting than seeing another Dean and Miz match, so I will welcome anything at this point that is not Miz and Dean Ambrose. there's a part of me that really wished Dean would have beaten down Seth with that chair tonight. When he had it and he was beating everyone down, I kind of thought he was going to turn and then just beat the shit out of Seth, especially based off what he said earlier in the show regarding, telling Seth to stay out of his business and all of that. So I was really thinking that might have been what happened, but unfortunately, it looks like we're going to stick with wacky Dean Ambrose for a little while longer. Overall, though, guys, this show started off really good. It kind of started to suck shit after a while towards that women's match and the Goldust R-Truth bullshit. The highlight of the night, though, was easily that Brock, Roman, and Joe segment. That thing was straight fucking fire. Again, absolutely love it that Brock is getting promo time. I love that he looks like he's having fun out there. And I love when he is on the mic. He's unpredictable, and him dropping, him saying shit on TV tonight proves that he's unpredictable, which I absolutely love. Him and Joe getting in each other's face was also really intense. You could really feel the heat from that match. They obviously need to have another fight, so I hope that Joe can beat Roman next week, but, like I said earlier, Braun Strowman is probably going to get involved in that match somehow, and that is probably where we are going to go into that four-way. But if we don't, though, I do hope that Joe wins so we can see another Joe versus Lesnar fight, and I hope that this time they will live up to my expectations. There was no real direction indicated for Balor tonight. He did have that blow-off match with Elias, so maybe now that feud is finally over, he can get involved in something else, which is what I hope they can do with him. It is a shame that right now that he is kind of stuck doing lower than mid-card stuff while, we're constantly seeing Miz versus Dean for the IC title. If Finn Balor was injected into that mix, you're talking about a lot of attention going into that. So it is a shame that Finn is kind of, spinning his wheels at this point. But I'm hoping that now he's done with Elias. They've dropped that feud. He can move on to something new, and we can go from there. Hopefully next week on Raw, we will find out where the direction of Finn Balor is headed. The Hardy Boys going against the Rival, like I said, is absolutely something that I want to see. Anything to get them away from Cesaro and Sheamus is a plus. And the Revival, like I said, are a great tag team, and so are the Hardy Boys. So you know that this match is going to be delightful, as Matt Hardy would say. Overall, though, guys, I do have to say that this was kind of a missable show, even though it was pretty decent. They kept me entertained, and they did a really good job of getting me hooked for next week. And that is kind of what this show is all about. There was a little bit of the fallout from Great Balls of Fire. We got a tiny bit of that, but it really was to set up the stage for next week's episode of Raw. And I think that's really good. Like I said, man, on our Great Balls of Fire review, definitely go check that out over there. I go into more discussion about this, but SmackDown Live continually has hooks where Raw never does. Raw never finds a way to keep us engaged and keep us wanting to watch the next episode. But tonight, they completely changed that. They built up for the number one contenders match, and of course, that announcement that Kurt is going to be making is going to have everyone's eyes glued to the TV, so that is a good way to get us hooked, and that makes me interested as we head into next week's episode of Raw. All that has me completely intrigued. I'm looking forward to Raw for once. Let's just hope that they can actually deliver on it next Monday. So guys, that was our review of Raw. Obviously, we will be back tomorrow with our review of SmackDown. A ton of stuff to talk about there. You want to talk about hooks, man. SmackDown Live and doing the title change of the U.S. title off of Kevin Owens onto AJ Styles at the house show. There's obviously going to be a lot of fallout from that, so I am definitely interested to hear what they are going to do and see what they are going to do on Tuesday. And a lot of other interesting stuff on that SmackDown Live card. So we will see what goes on there. We will see what direction we are headed as we go into Battleground in 2 weeks. A lot of stuff to cover as far as SmackDown is concerned, and it is obviously the A show, guys, so Tuesdays are when we want to pay attention the most as fans of wrestling, so I cannot wait for that show, and of course, check out our review tomorrow when it hits. So, again, guys, that was our review of Raw. You can always follow us on Twitter at Ramble_cast, subscribe to our YouTube page, leave us some comments there, and check us out on Podbean at podbean.com/Royal Ramble Radio. Again, guys, I am your host, Zach Stevens, and I am out. Peace.